No contact isn't always a good idea when it comes to dealing with a person who has a dismissive avoidant attachment style. In fact, sometimes it can be a very inappropriate strategy or simply be ineffective. In this video, we'll explore situations where no contact might not be the best idea to use, or even if you're doing no contact, it may not pan out the way that you want to. Hi, I'm Katya Morozova. I'm a personal and relationship coach, and I help people overcome heartbreak. I help them understand themselves and their relationship patterns using attachment theory. If that sounds interesting to you or helpful, then subscribe to my channel. I'm also the founder of katyamorozova.me. And if you're interested in booking a one-on-one session with me or exploring a coaching relationship, you can do so on that website. In my last video, I talked about when no contact could be a good idea and could be effective, so definitely check that video out next. The first reason no contact is unlikely to work is one of the most common reasons. This is a reason that people really don't like to admit because it can be a painful reason to connect to. That reason is if your dismissive avoidant ex has lost interest in you and in your relationship. Now, again, this isn't just true for this attachment style. The reality is that sometimes people do fall out of love, they lose interest, they lose attraction, they grow resentments, and they no longer want to be in the relationship. And, this can happen earlier on in a shorter relationship, and this can happen later on in a much longer multi-decade relationship. So this is always a possibility. Now, the reason no contact won't work in this particular situation is because one of the main reasons people do no contact is to re-spark interest in the relationship. In order to re-spark interest, there has to be a spark. There has to be some kind of buried interest that's already within that person. If the person isn't interested, then there isn't anything to spark. The truth is that you can't miss someone who is no longer on your radar. You can only miss someone who there's still a spark there for them. It's just buried underneath. But there are cases where the spark can be gone for a person for a number of reasons. And in this case, the only thing that no contact is going to do is to kind of drive this person further away from you. Now, this isn't to say that you shouldn't do no contact in this situation. In fact, no contact is likely the only thing that you could possibly do in a situation where someone has lost interest. Another reason no contact with a dismissive avoidant partner may not work is if you do no contact, but you don't do it for long enough. Now, I hear this particular issue a lot with people who are a little bit more anxious, where they start to go into no contact and their anxiety starts to flare up and they start reaching out to their partner or getting into some kind of dialogue with them. That's really not the purpose of no contact. The purpose of no contact is to create a reset button where both parties have time to think, to gather their thoughts, to think about how they want to shift in the relationship, to think about how they want the relationship to shift, or to think about what they need from their partner in the future. And it's also a way that, again, it's this reset button so that when you come back to the relationship, you can do it from a fresh place. So if you don't do no contact for long enough, you're likely not going to reach that place. As well, if you're reaching out to your partner, to your DA partner out of anxiety, and you're not giving them the space that they may have asked for, or that you even agreed to yourself, then you're not really giving your DA the space to think about you, think about what they've lost with you, miss you, or any of those things that no contact is kind of known to do. In fact, if you're doing no contact with a DA because they are kind of deactivated or triggered or need space, and you break no contact too quickly, then you're not really letting them complete that kind of deactivation cycle where they then can get to a space where they can come back to you. One final reason no contact might not be the best idea with a dismissive avoidant partner is if your dismissive avoidant partner is actually still engaged in the relationship, still trying, still wants to work things out, even if it's not in the way that you want to work things out. Even if they're approaching things in their own way, maybe more slowly or by taking some space, but still being engaged, still making promises, still showing up for you, then this could be an inappropriate time to do no contact. And in fact, no contact could really backfire in this type of situation. This often happens when someone who has a more anxious attachment style or a fearful avoidant attachment style employs no contact out of fear of being abandoned. So let's say they're in the relationship and their dismissive avoidant partner actually isn't leaving them, but the person with the anxious or the fearful avoidant leaning anxious attachment style has this fear fantasy that their partner is abandoning them. In this particular case, then the AP decides to do no contact. And unfortunately, the result of that is that if your partner is actually still invested, then it can make your partner feel incredibly abandoned. This is one of those situations where the anxious partner becomes dismissive themselves, either intentionally or unintentionally. In this case, if the DA never had any intentions of leaving the relationship themselves, or were at least interested in sorting things out with you, they might feel betrayed if you do no contact with them, and it can actually lead to a further rift in the relationship. Have you ever experienced this type of fear fantasy that I was just describing in my last point? Let me know in the comments below. I'm curious how many people that are watching this video have experienced something like this before. If you're struggling to know what's actually happening in your relationship, if you're not really sure if your partner is actually leaving you, or if you are in some kind of abandonment fear fantasy. If you'd like some clarity so you can work through that fear fantasy and approach your relationship in an effective way, then definitely book a session with me using the link in the comments. Did you like this video? If you did, give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you want to watch more videos like this. Next up is my video on the dismissive avoidant and when no contact could be a very good idea. So go ahead and watch that next. It's going to be right up here. Thanks so much for watching this video, and I really hope to see you on the next one.